how do nonfiction and fiction writing skills play into the law? Not as much as they should. So as lawyers, we're trained to look and write and sound like lawyers. Problem is, pretty much nobody wants to look at, talk to, or listen to a bunch of lawyers. So one of the things that I found in my decade in public defense is that as a trial lawyer, if I wanted to connect with the most important audiences, which are judges and juries, I needed to be less of a lawyer. I still needed to find, the right doctrine to advance my case. I needed to file my right motions. I needed to be persuasive. But to be persuasive on the page, I would often need to let go of the way I was taught to write as a lawyer and embrace techniques that create vividness. Techniques we find in really good nonfiction and fiction writing. So for example, the law is full of sanitizing and anesthetizing language. It's necessary because in the criminal courts, judges and prosecutors need to be able to do their job. And everybody else whose job is sending people to jails and prisons, they need to be able to do their job without being constantly punched in the gut with the impact of what that job entails. So we have what I kind of describe as like linguistic anesthesia. We say things like, we sentenced the defendant to custody. The defendant is an othering term. Custody sanitizes what is in fact a fetid cell with standing water at the bottom of it. And so for me, unlearning the language of the law and embracing really intense sensory detail was what made me effective as a lawyer, and I think now more as a writer. I'll give you an example. One might say, as a lawyer, at 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, law enforcement executed a duly authorized search warrant on the property of the defendant. I might say, at 6 o'clock in the morning, Mrs. Jones was asleep in bed with her 4-year-old daughter. She heard shouting and crashing noises, and in the darkened apartment heard a cracking sound as boots broke her door in half and knocked it to the floor. She couldn't see who had entered her home. They were men with boots and guns and helmets and tactical vests. All she remembers is the feeling of her daughter's heart beating against her own chest as she held the little girl tightly to her. Now, I did not tell you that this is a bad thing happening, or that she was scared, or that her daughter was scared, or that, the search warrant process is horrifying. I've just given you sensory details that actually Mrs. Jones could testify to if I needed her to. I used only those facts that I knew I could get into the record. But because I focused on the human and the sensory, and I didn't talk like a lawyer, I bet you felt it more.